Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Psalm chapter 119, verse 76. Let your steadfast love comfort me, according to your promise to your servant. Psalm chapter 73, verse 26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Psalm chapter 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?
Yo, good morning, everybody. Morning, Fancy. Morning, Trady. I'm just going to call you Trady. Appreciate y'all hopping back on, as always. We got a lot to discuss, that's for sure, as always. And of course, those that may be new, maybe see this replay. On these calls, we're basically doing what the title says, right? We'll talk about bias. We'll talk about the bonds, the yields. We'll talk about commodities. We'll talk about the indices, the currencies, and some tactics that we use to identify bias and narrative, right? So stick around for that. And of course, I answer any questions and whatnot. So feel free to, at any moment, send any question. No question's stupid. Especially for new students. I always get this, like every time I get a new group of students or just new people in general. They come and see what we talk about, and it seems highly advanced, like there's a lot to learn. And although that may be true, sometimes the best way to learn is through heavy exposure of people that are ahead of you, right? Because I've been trading for almost 7 years now. And compare that to someone that's been trading for 6 months, maybe a week or less, right? Maybe just getting started, it's their first day. You could imagine there's a disconnect, not only in technicals, but also in experience. So don't let that make you feel like just because you can't understand things yet, that there won't be value in being a community like this, did I say it right? In a community like this. It's too early for this, right? So yeah, it's like learning another language. The best, at least I've heard people say that the best way to learn a new language is being immersed in the culture, around people that talk it, right? Whatever language it is that you're trying to learn, like solely many times. It forces you to learn. It forces you to stretch your mind, and to really push yourself. So, and this is no different. The unique thing that ICT concepts bring to the trading industry is it's literally a language. You're learning the language of the market, right? That's why ICT classifies it as such. He says that he created a language for people to understand smart money, right? So that's another reason why it's, a little difficult at first. But, just like anything, the more that you spend time doing it, especially in a community like this that proves we know what the hell's going on, right? Like we know where price is going. If we don't, we explicitly talk about that. And then we understand why. So eventually you don't get caught up in ranges, right? You wait for things to prove it. And, eventually it becomes a part of you. And you see the opportunity, especially, like I said, in a community like this, because, we're not anything special, right? I'm not anything special. I'm just someone that never quit, and I will never quit. And I decided that really early on. So no matter what the market threw at me, whether it drained my bank accounts because I was being stupid, allowing it to do so, in a pursuit of things unrealistic, too quick, just because that's the case, luckily, I was able to, keep the faith. And, it'll be the same for you as well. You'll look back and think, man, I'm glad I didn't quit. Or you have to face the other side of the coin and think, man, what could have happened? What could I have become in this industry if I just didn't quit? If I humbled myself a little bit, if I gave myself a little bit more grace and patience in the hardest skill set to learn, like ever. Like this is the hardest thing to do for money, you know, mentally, psychologically, and financially a lot of times, you know. so yeah, but it's worth it. Every second is worth it. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't have pushed so hard, because then the money that I lost would be in my account right now. I would have just stuck to demo until I figured out what was going on, until I found someone that could walk me through things, which I did eventually find. It's very expensive. It was a lot of money. I have two mentors outside of ICT, but they are purists. They don't use any other concepts. It's just ICT. So I just immersed myself in it, and it was definitely the best decision I ever made. And I encourage you guys and everyone else that comes to me for help to have that same perspective. Don't let social media and shiny objects pull you away from something that, quite honestly, is the most provably effective tactic in the markets out of everything. Like, you can prove it almost instantly. Like, if I teach a concept or you learn, you can almost instantly see it. And it happens over and over. And so there's hundreds of examples that you could find in a matter of a month, day after day after day after day. And that can't be really said with these other things. Of course, there are moves, obviously. This isn't the only way to trade, but it says something when almost every one of the top prop firms, their best traders on the leaderboards in top 10, top 5 are literally ICT traders. And in the Robbins Cup, there's 2 ICT traders as well. So really tells you something. It's not the only way, but if you want to be a trader that knows the why, that develops a deep trust in what it is that you're doing, I think there's nothing compared to this. There's nothing compared to it. And if there is, I'd like to hear about it. But then again, probably not. I probably wouldn't want to hear about it, because being a purist, it keeps you focused, and it's worth it. People use ICT's marketing antics to not focus, right? They're like, oh, he's doing this, doing that, so it must not work. But if you separate his persona for marketing with the concepts and you look at the evidence, just this channel and my private group and some of the things that have been done in that group, that in itself is undeniable. Here on this YouTube channel, right? I've called many, many moves. I've been live every single week for a year plus at this point, a year and 2 months, and a year and 15 days. Or a year, a month and 15 days. Brain was not working for a second. But there's really no reason to doubt yourself. If you have less than 3 years experience, you don't have a big enough sample set to prove whether it works or not, because the first year is like flounder, right? It's unrealistic expectations. We come out the gate just trying to be rich right away. We hate our job a lot of times. We want to change our situation. And so the desperation from that, or the interest in changing that situation, leads you to stupid things like over trading, over leveraging, all these things that are the main culprits behind why people fail. why there's only 5% of people that succeed in trading. It's because of their mindset. The guidance that they've got is leading them astray, you know? So it's not the concepts. And again, this ain't the only way. But I'm a person that wants to trust things. I don't want to think that price is random if it's not, because then I'm going to get random results many times. And most of the time, these other forms of trading, they may say that the market's random, but it's not. How are you able to repeat your system if it's random? If it was totally random, you think institutions would put money behind something that's completely random? You're gambling at that point. It's a gamble. Who knows what it's going to do at that point, right? But clearly, from what we do, from what you've seen ICT prove, and many other traders that are high-level ICT traders, is clearly not random, right? We can pin it to exact times of the day, exact times of the month, times of the week, and for mega trades, certain times of the year, for like swing traders or position traders. And it just repeats, and if it's an algorithm that's truly running price, which it is, it's been that way since 2001, right? Well, if that's the case, what's there to argue about? When you see things repeating so much, what's there to argue about? It's just a matter of learning the language, which I hope you guys have been making leaps in that, being part of this community. I do my best, right, to try to get you guys real world applicable tactics that have helped me. I do want to pull up this reminder. Give me a second. Sorry, give me 1 second. I want to pull this up real quick. Where did I put it? Okay, let me pull this up. That's strange. Where the hell did it go? There it is. If I could break things down and kind of decide like what has been the most helpful to me to gain the clarity that I show you guys, and the clarity that a lot of students get, a lot of clarity that most of these ICT traders have, like where does it come from? It comes from these concepts, right? It's probably varies from time to time, but honestly, if you can have an answer for all this and you can back test these things, get really, really good at these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 things. I mean, I think you'll see some real serious changes in the way that you view the market. Obviously, each of these things has a process. Each of them require their own individual study. But these are all things that I talk about here. Maybe not every single day, but they're mentioned. All right, what are we doing today? Bias and narrative for the week and fundamentals. What do we think when we look at the economic calendar? Right, like I always say, we're thinking of power 3, right? Thinking about the weekly profiles. We're observing the range that we're in on the daily, weekly, monthly, and the quarterly. We talk about liquidity mapping, right? I have that list, which I'll mention here. Pull it up. Okay. the 20, 40, 60-day situation. We talk about that. It's very, very important stuff. Let me pull it down a little bit. Then we got higher time frame references. You should always, these are things you, every single week, every day, every month, right? Like at any point in time, you should be able to say what these levels are. It shouldn't be like, oh, I don't know where this or that's at. You need to know where it's at, right? It's like being in a battlefield where you have no idea about the landscape at all. Like it's all random, right? Random stuff's going to happen, you know, random, then it'll be followed by random results. But this is some of the most common targeting objectives that we look at, right? These are some of the most powerful concepts this year you should spend trying to get as knowledgeable on as possible, okay? But yeah, any day, these PD arrays, this liquidity, one or two of them may be used as counterparty liquidity, meaning price may do a bearish power 3, right? Where is that high of the bearish power 3 going to form? Maybe the market maker, maybe there's a market maker sell model that's going to form as well, right? Well, what is that reaching for? You no longer have it's not a guessing game anymore. It's one of these levels or two of them, depending on the circumstances. It could be a London high and previous day's high the price runs up into for a bearish power 3. It may sweep that and then look to target the previous day's low or previous week's low, right? Or maybe it's a previous week's high the price manipulates up into for power 3 for the day. Maybe it tags that weekly high and then immediately drops towards previous week's low or previous day's low. You guys hopefully remember from what we talk about on these Sunday calls, I say the most important liquidity generally is the current candles high and low on the time frame you're looking at, right? And the previous, right? If it's like really close, like this is a previous week's high, that's also from 2 weeks ago, this high. So that's important as well. If it was to run up, all right? And then we got this, and then we got this low too, also the wick. So it's close proximity, right? And if you go back to this list, again, it's part of the list. Previous week's high, previous week's low, previous day's highs and lows, previous month highs and lows, right? Because this candle that opens on these higher time frames, in order for it to get to this extreme or this extreme, you know, we have this low, right? The current candle, current or previous range high and low. So this next candle that opens up, the first thing you're going to be aiming at or making a decision on is, are we going to take out this high first or this low first? Which one has more of a likelihood of being targeted? And how many points is that? Well, let's kind of go to, let's go to this. Let's do it on this chart. Whoops. So again, taking that logic, very simplistic way of thinking, taking that logic, okay, if price is going to target this low, if we think it's still bearish, right, it looks like it is, we're just going to have to obviously see how it treats this. But if we're thinking in terms of the liquidity mapping list and just liquidity, that's the most important. Isn't it rational to think that, okay, well, we, first of all, if we want to take these equal highs out or this high or, you know, reach any of these levels, isn't it rational to think that the next daily candle that forms or the next couple, right, depending on how it delivers when it opens, isn't it rational to think if we're going to get up there to target this first? Or if we're going to go lower, isn't it rational to target this first before it gets there? It has no choice but to move this candle outside of, like the next candle, outside of this candle's range, if it's going to target these or this, right, this low or that high. These may be your full-on draw, right? Whatever one you decide based on the analysis, right? You may overall, for the week, maybe you want to get to this level. But day to day, there's a current and previous candles range. But this is another reason why the higher time frame is so helpful, because if you're on the 1 minute, you're not going to be able to really decide why or whether this high or that low is important, because you have so many other highs and lows. This kind of just takes away the ambiguity, and it's very simplistic, and nobody talks about it like this, right? I think there's like a handful of people that do, that mention previous days highs and lows and some of the things on the list. But again, whether you're on the quarterly chart, if you're on the monthly chart, if you're on the daily chart, weekly chart, the current and previous candles high and low is the most important. If you're on this day, on Sunday, for Monday's trading, right, going into Monday, and then opening up on Sunday, this low is the most important and this high is the most important, right? If we're looking at the weekly chart, right, if we're on the weekly perspective, this is where we're going to start anyways, right? But if this is where we're going to start, we have this low, which is the previous week's low, and then we have these relative equal lows that are in close proximity. So this is going to be bearish. First and foremost, we got to take this out. We also have the 75% of this wick that's a close PD array, because that's another thing that you got to think about, aside from the liquidity mapping list for the highs and lows. The next thing is the most near-term PD arrays, like these equal lows, or like this low, or like this wick and the quadrants. Maybe you're trying to target something down here or whatever, right? Something that's kind of far away. Maybe there's a gap or something you're trying to aim at. Before it gets there, that may be your main draw on the higher time frame. It may be what you're going to target, but at the same time, you still have to account for these things too. This helps you understand that there's a move that you can participate in every day. As long as there's a previous day's high and low, as long as there's a session high and low, right? Notice how I got lower time frame references too. Previous AM session high and low. Monday's trading, you want to keep tabs on Friday's high and low, because like I said a second ago, this candle's Friday's candle. So the next candle that forms, this is Friday's low. It's also the previous week's low, kind of merged together. Then we got Friday's high. If you're thinking in terms of power three, wouldn't it make sense for them to open up here, rally up, sweep out this liquidity, tap into this little gap that has no wicks or anything into it? Wouldn't it make sense for them to maybe purge that, stop people out, set the high of the week, and then look to target counterparty liquidity, right? So manipulation above this recent high, which again is important because it's the previous candle. And if we open up in that range, this high and that low need to be used. We could easily open up, wick through this going into Monday, right? And then maybe on the next day, right, going into, or maybe even on Monday as well. But preferably if we go into Monday, opening up, rallying up into this, and then Tuesday comes and we're still hanging around a little bit, it'd be really nice to see that the Friday's high was used as counterparty liquidity for price to manipulate for power three up into, tag that, fail to close this completely in, and then look to target the weekly low, which is also Friday's low, previous day's low. It would make sense because of how they operate. They have to manipulate the wrong way, get you sucked in, and then pull you the other way, going in line with what it looks like the narrative is, which may be continuing to be bearish, unless it gets up into this level. If it breaks this high, we're going to have a fair value gap that's taken out, with a new week opening gap, respect to this order block, and then a swing high that's violated. And we have the gap in here as well, right? So if we take this high, we're bullish. Otherwise, we may still have a little ways to go to the downside with this failure swing and this previous week's low. So you can understand how the liquidity mapping kind of helps you get to what I've just mentioned fairly quickly. And you have an outline already, right, of what levels to look at. And with the power three logic, you kind of have a situational understanding of what could happen and what would be ideal relative to how smart money operates in price, which is accumulation, manipulation, distribution, right? They accumulate to build orders, manipulate to pull you into the wrong side, and then they distribute towards their real target so they can go and take profit at, in this case, lower levels after they've taken out higher prices in a little bit of a premium relative to where price is at currently, right? So yeah, does that make sense? Let me know in the chat if all these different components that I've talked about, which I talk about every week, let me know if the explanation I just gave makes sense to you guys. Do you guys have any questions about any of the stuff that I've just talked about? Again, it's very important to know that you can ask questions. No questions stupid. If anyone's disrespectful about basic questions, they're going to be completely booted. This is not a place to be a dumbass because you will be treated as such, right? So you can rest assured that you can ask questions with no worry about being judged because those that judge will be judged. Trust me. It's the same vibe in my private group too. That's why it's like a family, you know, and that's why people are making progress because there's no ego. There's no fear of any of the questions seeming too basic. You know, there's students from all walks of life, all different countries, all different levels of skill that are in the community. I get people that are in their 60s that just started. I have traders that are from the floor. I have 2 floor traders that used to trade back in the day, right? When electronic trading wasn't even around. You know, I teach those traders. You know, they have like quadruple the experience I have, yet they see that there's value here because, you know, we've been afforded the ability to know what the hell we're doing and what we're looking at. So yeah, that was exactly what I was looking for this week. This is what a perfect week would be. Yeah, that's exactly what a perfect world would look like for this coming day or coming week. What else can justify the fact that these lows could be pretty highly probable to be targeted? Well, if we take this high to that low, you know, once we got up into this breaker here, we wanted to see if is it going to break outside of this so then we can use it as an invalidated breaker, similar to what we did over here with this breaker that was formed. Price ended up trading back through the 50%. And then we, of course, created an order block here. It looked like it was going to try to do something similar to this, right? Which, again, we called that whole buy. And then we continued to remain bullish in here, too, with our protocols. And then once it got back above this again, another change in state. But this wick in here, when it does that after you take out the high of an order block, you have to be very careful because that's clearly respecting that order block. So what happened? Price ended up moving to the buy side, right? And of course, it's now given up. And the fact that we're now, if we take it from this low to this high and you get 50%, we may be seeing a market maker sell model to target this low here, okay? It may happen, right? And that's also supported by some things on the back end, right? Being the breaker here that we've called, we talked about and we're observing. The invalidation point was up here. It's now moved. It's now at this high, right? Especially if it respects this order block. All of this may just simply be a higher time frame retracement. It may even 3 days. Yeah, it's probably going to form this candle here. So it's not going to be a wick, right? So it's no longer wicking inside of that. If we do go to the weekly chart, though, we can still see that we have this order block here. We've gotten well beyond the 50%. That's what was holding price up in here. The wicks being respected, the order blocks getting above them, being respected up until this point. That was some of the things, including this invalidated breaker here. Those were the things that were holding us to the buy side. And you guys know that we use 3 PD arrays to validate alongside a couple other things, like the relationship that each candle has to each PD array, and intermarket relationships. But again, if you look at this, right, we've now had 3 PD arrays getting violated. We have a low, 2 lows, wicks that were being respected up to this point, and now we have a failure swing down here, which is generally, if price wants to seek that, it's going to be a low resistance ability or low resistance liquidity run. When it has like a high here and then a high that gets taken like this, when price tries to trade back into it, we may have, high resistance, right? Because work's already been done up here. Yes, we have this high, and you could look at this high and that high as a failure swing, right? It is true. Right? If we go to the monthly chart, we could see there's a fractal high that's formed, and it just seems to be, interested in retracing a little bit. Maybe price ends up wanting to get down into this trend line liquidity. We can map this out. Right? We may look to see that take place, possibly. But we have to get below this wick here first. If we get below this wick from this monthly chart, this whole wick will be treated as a balanced price range, like I talked to you guys about, right? Like I mention all the time. We have sell side, buy side. If it displaces through this, say this month closes in a displacement, the 50% of this wick here from this monthly perspective will be my line in the sand for us to then get back in line with bullishness. Otherwise, if this low is taken, we have to see how it takes that low. If it takes it in a very strong, significant manner, then obviously, we'll be able to try to see, okay, if a retracement comes into that, we don't want to even see it attempt at the 50%, and then we'll continue to drop. We'll continue to seek maybe even lower prices like this down here. Or like I said, the trend line liquidity that is super obvious from this monthly perspective. And again, same thing as I talked about on that weekly, daily, quarterly chart. The most important liquidity is close proximity, previous day's lows, or in this case, previous month's lows, close proximity PD arrays like this bearish order block, and then the current candle's high and the current candle's low. Notice how when this candle opened up, it targeted this failure swing in here, this trend line liquidity, this previous month's candle's low. Right? Same with this candle here. Right, when it opened up, it was inside this. So it came down, it failed to break this low, it respected the 50%, and it rallied up and targeted simply this high here. It's a previous candle's high. Remember, this is the monthly chart. So these are not tiny pieces of price delivery. They look like indecision candles, but that's a 1,200 point, 1,400 point range on that indecision candle. So these are large moves. And you can see how narrative can become a little bit more simplistic when you see things in the way that we discuss, right? There's a lot of things going on in the chart with ICT concepts, but it can be simplified like this concept is here when it comes to bias and narrative. And you need to make sure that if you're bearish, you want to be on the higher time frames and look for 3 PD arrays that if they were broken on the 5-minute chart, like say this was the 5-minute chart, right? You look for 3 PD arrays that are above us. And if it would look bullish or bearish, depending on what you're seeing in price, on that 5-minute chart, if you put yourself from a lens of like those lower time frames when you're on these higher time frames, if you think about the levels that would be unreasonable for you to see broken on the 5-minute chart, and you apply that to this monthly chart or daily or weekly chart or quarterly chart, and you map out the 3 PD arrays, you'll be shocked at how much more simplistic, where is price going to go, right? That question becomes. Okay. Let me see. As long as we respect that breaker and SIBI, I will have relative equal lows as my target. Yeah. As simple as that, Slim. It's as simple as that, bro. And again, outside of that, right, thinking from the daily chart, outside of what's happening on that daily chart, what's happening on this weekly chart? Where's our other liquidity? Well, we have this low here. Remember, this list, as non-exhaustive as it is, as simplistic as it is, this is, if you think about this, and if what I've just talked about makes sense, Can you see how we overcomplicate things like early on in trading? We overcomplicate because our experience to what and understanding of what's important is very minimal. We're not seasoned at all, so we have no idea what's happening, and it feels like it's impossible at times. It feels like we have to be some mental genius or we're not going to get anything understood, and it's just not the case. And sometimes it's, well, all the time, it's good to be exposed to a community like this with a mentor that's able to talk about it like this, that proves it, because it shines a mirror and it shows you like, okay, I have been overcomplicating things. It can be this simple. And to trust what I'm saying, obviously you got to do it on your own, and you discover it over time. You guys gain experience every week here because I do the same stuff every day, every week. It never really changes. It's got the same contents, just a different package, meaning like price may look a little different because it's not here, it's maybe down here or up here. The same things are applying though, right? We're looking for all the same stuff, and there's no need to overcomplicate it. And if you feel like you're overcomplicating it or you feel stuck or whatever, you can always reach out to me. I help traders all the time, every single day, all day long. From my private group to DMs I get on Instagram. And many times after those conversations, they join the private group. Because it's just, we're doing this every day, and it's provably effective. But I have a lot of students that just follow me on YouTube and on Instagram, and they're also doing spectacular. So whichever direction you choose to take this relationship that we got going on here, it's going to be beneficial. You have no choice but to improve or simply just gain clarity. And then in that case, you end up walking on your own. Let me see. We have a 3-month fair value gap. Let's go to the quarterly chart real quick. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's absolutely beautiful. So think about it. If this was the 5-minute chart here, if this price delivery, although it's really small, if you saw this on the 5-minute chart as like a snippet, like a clip, what would your opinion be? What would you like to see? We know that price doesn't just keep going higher only. It could, but what's the rational, more likely thing that's going to take place given what we see here? Well, if we respect this wick and we end up pushing up again, then maybe it leaves that available, right? But it's probably more likely, given what we've seen on the daily and the weekly chart, it's probably more likely, especially if dollar goes higher a bit, to see this fair value gap get targeted. This is a 3-month chart. This is narrative being painted for the quarter, right? Like if you can get comfortable on this time frame, you're literally able to call buy. This is how I'm correct a lot of the times for such a long time. All year last year, we were correct on bias and narrative, and it's recorded. What are the key elements to that? Well, I give you a list of some of the skill sets, or some of the skill sets and some of the tactics that I encourage you guys to really become professional with and spend a lot of time studying. But at the same time, simply being on a time frame like this, understanding how we operate on the daily, weekly, monthly chart, apply that to this time frame, and it just makes sense that this will be targeted. So you have 3 months of potential narrative. Bias obviously changes from day to day. It could be in a retracement, it could be in consolidation. So getting day-to-day bias requires a little more experience, a little more understanding of how prices, how it works, and what it does on a day-to-day with the ebb and flows, which again is something that we talk about as well, right, all the time. But you can imagine, right, if you have an opinion that this is going to be targeted, you now have for the next, till the new quarter, which I believe is next month, to then determine where price is going to go. It may be an inside quarter. It may not do anything. That just simply means that the next quarter is going to be highly dynamic, right? Or it's more probable to be dynamic because small ranges lead to large ranges, and large ranges lead to small ranges. That's why it's kind of a small range, right? That's why it's an inside quarter. That's why we haven't broken this high and that low. Remember what I mentioned on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily chart. Remember what I've been pushing into you guys, okay? The current high and low and the previous candle's high and low. If we're inside that range, that is your most important liquidity pool. That is your most important liquidity pool if you're bullish. If it proves that it wants to be bullish, like say it respects this and then starts pushing higher, right? That would be what you would try to look at. Or this. Is that a lot of moving parts? Is this overly complicated for bias and narrative? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. Is this overcomplicated or is it fairly reasonable and simplistic, right? And it's hopefully, well, let me see what you guys' response is first before I expand a little further. But yeah, is what we've talked about simply today and every other Sunday overly complex about bias and narrative, or is it very simplistic and reasonably simplistic? No, definitely not. Beautiful. See, that's another difference with what I do as a mentor. I don't want to make you feel like you have to be subservient to me. I want you to be able to walk on your own. And then eventually, you want to hang out with the community because you like the community, and you like the environment, you like the vibe, you like being around traders that do sincerely know what's going on, who prove it, you can also bounce ideas off of, It's not a toxic community, right? Like it's no ego. I never claim to be the best, but I'm pretty efficient. And so are the students that lend me their ear. It's kind of deceiving because the small size of the following, but I think that'll change over time just simply because what we do works. It just works, and more of you are becoming really good, getting funded accounts. I can't guarantee that result, obviously, but kind of just is what it is. Can't argue with reality, right? Let me see. Mohammed said, I use dealing range to trade. Yeah, dealing range is part of the system as well for price navigation. I am waiting for hourly sweep. I want to go. Okay, yeah, full. Cool. But yeah, and it's not harder than looking where we're closest to, high or low. And right now we have a higher probability of taking the lows and the high. Yeah, I agree. Unless, of course, something on the daily chart decides to reject this order block, right? If we start to displace, because this is a fair value gap now, right? We got buy side, sell side, right? We have buy side, sell side. So this range didn't get deeply traded into in terms of that previous dealing range, right? The 50%, it got fully respected and didn't even get attempted because the run higher to the run lower was a sell model, right? And it was also a balanced price range. So there's no necessity for this low to that high, 50% of that to get traded to unless we're bullish. And clearly, with this reaction here from this breaker and the logic that this low to that high was a balanced price range, given this response away, there's really no reason, right? It makes sense, right? We have a suspension block here too. It makes sense why this is trustworthy to potentially see price target the sell side down there, right? Does that mean that we can't get like a, manipulated run bullish and be presented with a counter trend buy position? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. You can absolutely find something like that. But the underlying narrative, given what we see in price and just the fundamentals of how this stuff works, it's more so leaning towards price looking to target the sell side more heavily than it is for the buy side. That all changes if this high is taken because, again, our invalidation levels start to kick in, right? Our process for validation and invalidation start to have a lot of blaring sirens saying that we're not going to go lower now. It's going to leave this low, right? You see something. And then, of course, if that was to happen, say it doesn't target this low here, right? Say it doesn't target this low either. If we start to push up from there, then this will simply just be pretty solid respect as it's been respecting, right? But respect to this wick. And if, like say this candle does end up on that daily chart getting up above here, that would turn this monthly candle into an indecision candle, leaving the lows available, creating a large wick. All of this price delivery going lower here will have just been a wick, right? And then, of course, the candle will start to open up and run up to the buy side. We got the February open price. See, February 1st. So the February open price is there. So we got a run higher. That's a wick. And then prices now drop lower, creating the bearish candle once we got below the open price here. So we got a wick above. We got the upper portion of the body of the monthly candle there. We came up. We were a very tight indecision candle, flirting with that open price. But again, the underlying context being the suspension block, the breaker, both here and here, have been entirely respected. This low to that high, similar to this low to that high, it's a balanced price range once it gets below them. They just fake people out. It's funny too, because if you go back to go back to the Sunday call that we did in this instance, well, more so last week when we hopped on the Sunday call, even during, what was it, like a Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. When we did a live on Tuesday on this week, right, 2 weeks ago, I talked about how this run up, right, if we go to the higher time frame and you think about the 3 PDA rule, price was respecting this inversion fair value gap. It respected this order block, right? This run higher here did not violate 3 PD arrays, right? We kind of observed this wick here. We wanted to see this respected, of course, because that would have made it super highly bearish, which it did end up supporting. But once we got down below this here, that created a double change in state, right here and here. And then we were very, very confident that we were going to blow this low out. So even in the face of this going so aggressively to the buy side, you can see that our invalidation tactics, the way that we read price and develop trust in our analysis, you can see that it's highly effective. Even in the face of something that's, for many people, pretty scary. If they're thinking bearishness and they see this, most of the time they're not going to think that it's bullish, or they're not going to think that it's bearish. They're going to be swayed because they're on the lower time frame, or they just don't understand the mechanics for validation and invalidation, right? Which again, it's part of the list I tell you guys about. And even that realm of things, although it can seem complicated because people don't know what they're talking about, yet they're trying to teach, it's really not. Just like how the bias and narrative overall framework using the liquidity mapping principles I've talked about is not overly complex. It's not complex to understand validation either. You got to have patience, right? If you're just trying to force shorts in this, you would have got totally destroyed. But then, right, we see a fractal high that formed, right? That's another key indication. If a fractal high forms, the next 1 to 2 candles after that third candle can be expected to continue a retracement until it hits a PD array that may send price. Same thing's true here. When you're in continuation, if there's a fractal high that forms, especially at a PD array like this, and then you can get displacement after that third candle, because it's 3 candles that creates a fractal high, right? It's a true swing high that's important. It's not 5, right? It's literally 3. But once you see that and that third candle's confirmed, that next candle, right, if it's reasonable, right, if you have a target that's reasonable, that's still available, it's reasonable to then go with the flow, right? And then you just, from this point, look at 3 PD arrays above price. And as long as they stay intact and you have a target that may not be fully taken out yet, you keep pushing mainly in that direction until things get reset. Like in this case, we're going to do the same thing. Fractal highs formed. Here's candle number 3. So the next candle here can be expected to continue, right? We may get that retracement because, again, we have this gap in here. But then again, it may not. It may not want to touch that. This may end up acting as a balanced price range. It may shoot a wick up there just to stop them out for power of 3 on the week. But, ideally, we want to see this left open because that's a signature that keeps price pushing in your direction. Okay. So again, it's not a complicated perspective what we do here. It's very simplistic. And as long as this high stays intact, we have no real necessity or reason to trust buys over sells until proven otherwise, right? And in the face of this, you need it to prove otherwise. This is clearly bearish price action. It's clearly bearish price structure. Now, if DXY starts to decline aggressively, which could happen, right? You could see that the correlation effect, how they're supposed to be reverse correlated, is not playing out. It's because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world. It's having an impact on the market. So there's a crack in correlation. So if we can see dollar decline, that may allow for this to try to get up. And if this high is taken, not only is that 3 PD arrays being violated, but it's also what I call a type 2 dealing range. Those of you in the private group can probably clearly see this if you didn't see it already. Okay. So that'd be another reason why this high would be very significant. All right. So yeah, and as long as it continues, we're going to stick to our narrative being bearish. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys have any questions. Does everything make sense that I have mentioned so far? Yes, of course, as long as we don't disregard of the bearish PD arrays. For that moment, it's holding. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. Right. I know that sometimes, for some of you that are new, either new at trading or new to the community, maybe you've been trading for a while. I know it can maybe seem like a fire hose at times. Hopefully not. But again, you can always just send me a message in the chat, and I will slow it down. I'll go back to what I was talking about, because I'm not doing this just to hear myself talk. I'm not doing this for image. I'm not doing this for ego, right? I don't have to be live on YouTube. I have a private group that takes a lot of my time. I have a life I could be living, which I do live. But I know that some people just need help to stay on the rails, especially in this realm of trading. There's a lot of moving parts. At first, it's like a puzzle that's just been thrown on the floor with thousands of pieces, and you just have to know what are the rails, right? Give me the outlines so I can, effectively do things when it comes to learning. But yeah, I just saw my screen kind of glitch a little bit. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, hopefully that was just on my end. Slim said, okay. I know I have a couple more people on. Just let me know, those of you that are on, if this makes sense, because silence does not breed progress, especially when someone's teaching and opening up for questions, which most people don't. So if you have questions, without you guys stating you have questions, I'm just going to assume that you guys aren't going to be confused. How long have I been trading? I've been trading for almost 7 years, 6.5. In August 7th of this year is going to be my 7th year. I've been trading since 2019. So yeah, for those that don't know, just confirmed my own bias. Yeah, I like that. Those of you that do show up all the time and you're very consistent with hopping on with me, the process is always the same. So once you go through things and you start to understand what it is that we do, how we do things, I want you to do basically what Slim just mentioned, right? Use this to help confirm your bias, right? Or just process, right? We may not agree all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, Gotti, I'm gonna have to, or got it. I'm gonna encourage you to go back and listen to the whole conversation that we've done for the last hour, because me saying I'm bullish or bearish is not going to benefit you. You have to understand why, and I'm not going to rehash all of it. But yeah, I mean, the eyeball is kind of self-explanatory as well. But again, I do encourage you, if you did hop on late, to go review some of the things that we've talked about. It's highly effective. It's highly helpful, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, or maybe if you have questions. Um, I'm more than happy to engage in conversation with all of you. And again, I'm literally here to just help you. I'm not here for myself because I don't have to be. I don't make money off YouTube. Okay. Um, I'm just sincerely trying to help. And yeah, I trade prop firms. I trade with Tradeify, which, by the way, if you guys do want to make the switch from something like TopStep, who seems to be going under, and you want to be with something that's reputable, right? A prop firm, definitely go check out Tradeify. And if you want to get the best discounts, you can always use the code WMG. It's totally up to you, or not, right? But even if you don't use the code, even if I didn't have a code with them, I really appreciate the way that they do things. So whether you choose to use the code because you support the channel or not, regardless, I do encourage you to go to Tradeify. I'm looking at Lucid Trading as well. They seem pretty good. I've traded with many prop firms, FTMO, who I don't recommend going through because they have no integrity. Yeah, in my private group, I basically go live every single day. But here on YouTube, I'm live Sundays with these types of in-depth bias and narrative walkthrough / breakdowns and Q&A type of vibe, weekly prep, just so I can engage with you guys. But then on Tuesdays, we have our weekly live call for YouTube. But yes, I'm live every single day with my private group. And if any of them are on the live right now, they can attest to that. And it's pretty interesting, to say the least. I've been doing that for going on 4 years now. I don't trade per se live every day, right? Because nobody should trade live every single day. Okay, there's something to do every day. We call a move every day in my private group, right? We constantly do things. And there's always something. 2 to 3 trades get called every single day, which again, that's a crazy statement. But my private group students, if they are on, they can attest to that. But just because there's moves doesn't mean that I'm like, okay, it lines up with everything that we like to do for high probability. I mentioned it explicitly, how I feel about things. And then I have a lot of students as well that are really, really, really advanced, and they're very impressive, to say the least. So you get that as well, being part of the private group. Aside from myself, let me see. How do I join? So there's a link in the bio, or I have a QR code. If you see right here, right there, when you scan that, it'll kind of give you some details and let you kind of know more details about everything. And of course, if you decide that it seems like it's something for you, feels like a good fit, then I encourage you guys to check it out. We're always available. I do have one-on-ones, like a one-on-one realm of what I do. I only open it up every quarter, and people that are in my private group that may not be one-on-one yet, they always obviously get first in line. It's very interesting because they get to join, trade with me live, trade with the group live. They see everyone's progress, and then if they decide to go that route, they generally do. And then in that case, with the one-on-ones, how I structure that, you guys get a personal experience, because everyone's different. Everyone has their own problems. Everyone has different levels of issues, right? And strengths as well. It's not all about issues. And I just basically act as a guide, right? I act as reinforcement. And it's like a coach, right? And on top of that personal element, that personalized approach, which nobody offers in this industry, like nobody does one-on-ones because it's so much. And you have to literally be inside someone's head and guide them through the problems, and try to, combat some of their bad habits and, go through things with them. So it takes a lot. So nobody really offers it, but we do, because I'm sincerely invested in seeing people get better. It's just the way it is. It's what I decided. Once I hit profitability, I'm like, all right, well, it's time to pass the blessing forward. I can't do it for free, obviously, because then I'll get a ton of people that are not serious, and they'll waste my time, and my time will not be wasted. So it's honestly too bad. It's kind of just the way it is. But that's why I have these calls, right? They're kind of like mentorship one-on-one, but it's just with you guys as a group. But this type of dynamic is basically done in the private group, like 7 days a week. Well, 6 now, because I have a student that I work with on Saturday mornings for one-on-ones. So that day's kind of been taken. I have 3 students actually on Saturdays. But, once they feel they're done with the one-on-one realm, which it shouldn't take too long, because they get set up understanding what to do. Like today, it was very structured. It's very organized. We know what price could end up doing, what it shouldn't end up doing, and, how to navigate either direction. We have one main objective, which I want to see if this can be targeted, obviously. But again, if it doesn't, if it disagrees with it, we'll look to adjust, and I've laid that out today too. But yeah, again, if you guys feel that you need more of a close interaction, right, more of a tighter family type of feel, right, with people that truly support you on your journey, with a mentor that proves it. I prove it every day, and then here I prove it every week, that there's something to learn from this, and it's highly effective. Like, I mean, there's not much more that can be done other than showing you my bank account, but I will not be doing that. It's no one's business how much money I actually have. I could be broke, could have a lot of money, let's leave it up for debate. But I'm sure you guys could put 2 and 2 together. You stick around long enough, just here on YouTube, Price does what we ask it to do. And then my students come out and they, like Slim said, once we align pretty solidly, given how effective this has proven to be, I mean, it's up to you, right? Just because I'm successful or profitable doesn't mean that you're going to automatically be, because you have to make decisions unless I'm sending signals, which I don't explicitly do, right? In my private group, it's a little bit more, because I do say, this is what I want to see happen. This is what I think is a good opportunity possibly. But I don't lead with that, because if you think you're coming here just for a signal provider, you're going to be sadly mistaken, because I force you to learn. And if you don't want to learn and you just want the answers given to you every 5 minutes, that means that I'm trading for you, right? I'm trading your account, and that's not a risk that I legally can take. So it's just not the way things are. And I think it's more fulfilling when you feel you can do it on your own. And I feel like I'm doing more of a service to the students that come to me by getting them in position to do it on their own. That's why it's an apprenticeship, right? Because you get to watch me and then eventually do things on your own, and then just be with the group, because honestly, it's a good group. It's very small. It's exclusive for a reason. And, I kind of like it that way. I like quality students over quantity, because, I don't need to do anything else. Trading is enough. It definitely takes care of me and pays the bills. Thanks to God and ICT, and 2 other people that were gracious enough to give me their time when I was at my lowest, so yeah, is Tradeify available for people outside the US? Honestly, we'll have to go. Let's actually look that up right now. I'll give you an answer right now. Let me see. I believe they are. They're an American company, which I really appreciate. Stratify into. Tradeify open. Yeah, they are. Tradeify can be used in many countries around the world. There are some limitations depending on where you are and what features you need. General availability. Tradeify's job management. Process cloud-based. Okay. Tradeify is commonly supported in other countries: Canada, Australia, New Zealand. May not support regional taxes or accounting features, for example, advanced tax groups. Yeah, so I guess to answer that question, it definitely is. Honestly, it's the best, literally the best firm that I've ever traded at. And whether I had a code with them or not, I've never had a code. You guys know, I've never had a code with any other company because I don't trust any of them after what FTMO did to me. Because regulations came in and they basically stole my $60,000 withdrawal. They removed my access to my $400,000 funding without even telling me anything. So I was in process of getting a withdrawal, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm like, yo, where the hell is my withdrawal? And so I hit them up, and I got no response for another 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, regulations have changed, so you've been removed. I'm like, well, you're just going to take my money and kick me out? And you've made me wait this long like to give me an answer? And then they recently started accepting US traders again. And I told them the situation and what they did to me. And they're like, oh yeah, we're not gonna fix that. Too bad. Go through the process again. I'm like, yo, you know what? Like, this is pathetic, you know? And if I didn't have the mindset that I have when it comes to how I'm structuring my stuff, right? With like how prop firms are being used by me to further fund my personal account, which honestly I don't have to do anymore. I could just use it as an extra income, which is generally the case, like an extra access to capital type of situation. But if I didn't have that mindset early on and took all my withdrawals at first and put them into my personal account, it would have been detrimental. It was already detrimental because I was really getting comfortable with the funded account, you know? And I worked really hard to build those accounts, you know, and it just got stripped. So I was like, really, bro? And for them to not come back and right the wrong and how they did me, I will never, ever promote that company's anything worth even mentioning, you know, other than in a negative light. You know, they got a beautiful platform. It was a beautiful experience up until that happened. You know, so because that's a risk and that's how they operate, and they're outside the US, it's pathetic. I told Tradeify about this situation, and they're like, that will never happen. Under no circumstances will that ever happen. And they're in the US. And they will explicitly let us know ahead of time if there's a threat. So then you can reasonably make adjustments, not just all of a sudden everything gets like the rug's pulled from under you, and you're depending on that as an income. This is why you don't want to depend on prop firms solely as an income. You want to use them to generate capital to put in a private account. And then use them as an extra income. You know, there's nothing wrong with them in that sense, but your ability to trade is put in their hands. And if they go under because they're reckless spenders, or if regulations come out and you're just risking everything by wasting all your money and not being financially smart, building your business, you know, your risk is way too through the roof in terms of business risk, you know? So you got to be professional with this stuff. And it's very easy to, you know, get withdrawals from, you know, these funded accounts and then just think, okay, well, I'm safe, you know, and you get on a win streak and then, you know, you're on cloud nine. You're not thinking about the risks that you're participating in because it's so easily accessible, you know, but the risk is real when it comes to regulations. That's why you want to be with companies that are well established, that have management you can talk to, right? Like CEOs that are public, or, you know, not scared of engaging with their clientele. You want to be with someone that has like a company like Tradeify that has great support. They're amazing with their support already. I've only been with them for 2.5 months, but their support is amazing. You know, when things go wrong, they fix it right away, or they try their best to fix it right away. You know, and there's ICT traders that are partnered with them, some of the best, right? Like Trader Kane, he's one of the highest payout traders among the ICT / prop firm industry. And he's on the back end helping Tradeify. He's also, I believe, helping Lucid Trading as well. And that's why the rules are more beneficial. The scaling plan's more beneficial. The pricing is more beneficial. Everything's more beneficial, and it's good for the trader, right? When you're live funded trading, they shouldn't make it harder, right? Like they shouldn't make it harder with the rule changes. They shouldn't, like Apex, switch rules midway through things just randomly. So then when it's time for a payout, you've accidentally broken a rule that they just slipped in, right? Apex is great and all, but that's what some of these companies do. I attempted to go with Apex because I was trying to get away from Top Step. I've been with them for a year and a half, but I'm on my way out. I'm not really interested in being with a sinking ship. They're not sinking yet, but the PR they've gotten is really bad. But again, Tradeify has many options. It's just worth looking into. Again, whether you use my code or not, whether I had any type of investment in them, like me having an account or not, just knowing the rules, knowing some of my friends and the experiences they've had, knowing my interactions that I've had so far, I mean, there's nothing like them, honestly. They're doing spectacularly, and as long as it stays like this, the way it is, they're going to still remain the best in my mind. They're the very best. So, and you can make your own opinion. That's my opinion. And you can either use my code because you support the channel or not. It's WMG at checkout. But whether you use it or not, again, you look into them, you'll see really quickly that they're very trader friendly. And I mean, it's amazing. I think it's just going to get better from conversations I've had with some of their support. Like they're upgrading their journal right now. It's going to be the best journal out of everything, and it comes with, your account. They said that they were going to be done with the upgrade in a day. It's now been a week. And it's because they're making sure that it's perfect or as close to perfect as possible. So that's amazing. They're invested in these things, and the prices aren't increasing because they're making these improvements. Like with Top Step, Top Step has increased, I think, the price by 20%. And nothing's like, is that like a fee because you're trying to make the money back that you invested to give us a better platform? Is that how you're going to do things? Like, that's wild. Makes sense, but really, when there's other options, it's not necessary to overpay. And there's even more strict rules. Their rules are even more strict. They're already strict as it is when it comes to prop firms. So if their price is increasing and they're doing people dirty, and they're making things more difficult, really, there's just no reason to have to add that stress to yourself financially and mentally, knowing that this is what's going on. They also have plans to fix a card for every trader. Yeah, that's awesome, right? So your payouts will go directly to a card. I think Lucid's also doing that same thing. That's the new thing that's coming. But yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Because then when you withdraw, you're going to be able to run it as a business and have a separate account where your profits go to. So you can separate personal funds as well as business funds. Because you can start an entity, right, like an LLC, and then buy these prop firm challenges under the LLC name, and then eventually it can be a tax write-off. That's a way that you can use this. You can leverage the spending in a smart business way with taxes, right, against your taxable income when you're profitable. Of course, that's stuff later down the line, like tax strategy-wise and whatnot. I'm not a tax person, so it's just my opinion and things that I've learned over the years. Always go to a CPA for your tax situation. But yeah, there's ways to leverage this stuff when you reach different levels. And again, most people don't talk about these things, like that next level when you're profitable, because first of all, they're probably not paying taxes on their trading, or they're not profitable at all, right? They've never figured this stuff out because they've never had to, because they're not making money, right? You can kind of, there's telltale signs for whether someone's, real, right, or doing what they claim, by the certain things that they choose to talk about or things they do talk about, right? but mainly the things they don't choose to talk about. It's pretty telling. I've been in this industry for, a little bit over half a decade, and, I've seen a lot. I know how my perspective was early on, things I was focused on versus what I'm focused on now. I mean, you could just see it in the way that they talk about things, whether they're being sincere or not. Over time, you build that intuition, especially when you become profitable, because it's just stuff is nonsense. It's a telltale sign when people don't talk about certain stuff, or they're just not trying to educate their people. I have profitable students, right? Like provably profitable, and they're pretty dynamic. So I've had to have these conversations with them. So again, I'm not a tax advisor. It's very important when you do become profitable to get a tax person. But yeah, Slim, that card benefit, you're going to start to see all the prop firms come up with this. But that's a beautiful thing to have. Of course, to substitute that, you could just get a business account, and then you can have a business card, right? Business debit card for your business account. It's basically what it is. They're kind of just allowing for it from their own service, which, kind of simplifies things. But yeah. Did I miss any questions? Chowezi, what's up, bro? Good to see you again. Yeah, it doesn't seem like you guys have any questions. So let's actually let's go to gold. So yeah, I mentioned this SMT, right? I mentioned that, it may still look to continue to go a little bit deeper. We'll see though, because we got this low to that high. Then we got that huge displacement. So the run up overlap with the massive run lower. You notice this wick in here? You see there's a gap? Wait, let me see. Scrunch it up a little bit. So you notice this gap up here? Look what happened. Price displaced through it, came back up, right? Closed in it. Then the next candle did what? It specifically ran up into this up candle, but it overtook this. Why? Because there's no buy side delivery here. So what did they do? Candle slid through it with sell side, and then they offered buy side specifically into it with this wick, and then they rapidly got down below this wick. This wick, 50% of that is a balanced price range. But then again, this whole displacement broke this low. So this low to that high entirely with this wick, right, trading through that, us getting down below that, that whole range from this low to that high is a balanced price range. It should act as such. So, unless it's going to go higher, right, it's going to respect this. We may look to get up above this a little bit. We'll see what happens. There was SMT down here, this liquidation. I did talk about how it's probably going to be a liquidation. We did respect this wick here. Couldn't even get to 50%. This run lower was specifically to target this weekly bullish order block. Okay, if you go and look, came right down into that. If this was the 5-minute chart, what would you be thinking? Well, we got order block being respected. Prices continuing to go higher. There's not really any disrespect to this wick in here, but we are kind of trapped between this wick and this wick. So we got to observe, because this whole up movement, if price trades up into that and then rejects, can't even get to the 50%, that'll put this in jeopardy. And then we'll look to target the trend line liquidity here. Otherwise, as long as it stays above this, it may look to continue to target these levels up here. Okay, and we got these quadrants to look at as targets. So you want to think about specific price targets. Well, you have them right there, right? Different levels to keep tabs on. Okay. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Right? We got relative equal highs up here. We do not want to see this wick in here. If it's going to be a bearish trend still, we don't want to see it even get close to this wick up here, right? The 50%. We don't want to see that. Maybe it looks to trade into this lower portion of this up candle, act as a bearish order block. Maybe it wants to do that. But if it's going to be continuing to be bearish, which I'm not necessarily going to trust unless we were to break this order block, break down below this low, get back down below, this little gap in here. Definitely if we get down below this here, if we get down below this new week opening gap here, like with displacement, I'll definitely think that we're going to go short and target this as a low resistance liquidity run. And then we'll target this here. But we got from this high to that low. You guys notice that we're kind of hanging around equilibrium. We're exactly at equilibrium on that higher time frame. So we got to decide what it wants to do. It has to get outside of this. And if that means it's going to displace and we close above this, then we're ready to take out the high up here. This one first, though. But if we do get respect to this, maybe it runs up above this high, takes out the low here, and we get below equilibrium, and we close below this as well, close below this order block. That's multiple PD arrays, and that could easily put us on the side of price going down, down to this, right? Let me get to DXY. Sorry about that. We did talk about DXY earlier. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this. We got to see what it's going to want to do. If you take this low to that high, this one's also resting at equilibrium, like smack in the middle of the range. If we do get down below this fair value gap here, we may have a market maker sell model. Same thing as the indices. If it was to break above this high here, that's enough for us to believe that we're going to then look to target these upper levels. First and foremost, though, if we do get it to do that, we got the high here. These are daily candle highs. Those are daily highs. So above each of those, they're really nice liquidity pools. Okay. Honestly, Chris, something going on. Bitcoin crash. Yeah, so the whole Bitcoin crash, the excuse that they used to liquidate was the Epstein files. People are saying that Epstein was Satoshi, especially with the fact that they specifically called XRP a threat. It makes me even more convicted behind XRP over any other asset or digital asset because XRP, it's a threat to the banking industry. So with that being the case, that's why they've been attacked. That's why they've been artificially held down. But yeah, all the chaos that's in crypto, it's to be expected, right? It's one of the most volatile things you could ever invest in. I highly doubt it's going to go to zero, though, especially once the U.S. You'll know 100% sure that it's never going to go to zero once you see countries like the U.S. El Salvador's already done it. Most of their reserves that they have financially is in Bitcoin. It's like hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions at this point. But once you start to see the U.S. and the Western countries start to build that reserve that they got for Bitcoin, you can rest assured that it's not going anywhere. We already got regulations being passed. It's already, becoming part of the infrastructure. There's already 300 plus banks that are working with companies like Ripple XRP to help fix the financial system and remove the friction that's involved with cross-border payments. Like, for example, a deposit that goes into your trading account, you either have to do ACH or you have to wire money, right? And that takes time. Wiring money, it's a little bit less of a time to wait. A lot of times it's pretty quick. But XRP and some of these companies, they're going to, well, specifically XRP, they're trying to fix that wait, the cost as well. There's a fee to do things. It's generally pretty high, especially if it's large amounts of money. XRP is a solution to fix that. And it's already working in Saudi Arabia, right? A lot of these companies and their technology is already being used in real time. It's just not talked about a lot because people are looking at meme coins and, how high this is going to go and, whether the market's going to be going to zero and crashing and all this stuff. They're highly distracted. from the utility that's being implemented. You know, not every crypto company is going to survive, just like how not every company in general survives. Um, but companies like XRP, this ain't financial advice, but if you do some research, my crypto mentor, who's honestly the best and most knowledgeable, he was also a banker, so he understands the banking industry, and what things could survive, that have the best chance of surviving and uh, becoming a part of the financial system and whatnot. The guy's name is Coach JV. He's absolutely the most amazing crypto teacher. I also have another guy called the Tall Guy Typhoon. He's more stocks, but he's also crypto and just business in general. Those are my mentors when it comes to a lot of things outside of ICT concepts. But even with their stuff and wisdom that they give for like breaking down companies and how to really observe value in a company, um, uh, you know, honestly, outside of them, there's really no one that I use, but they're the best. They're the absolute best. Any financial education aside from trading, anything outside of ICT, they are the only external mentors that I have when it comes to things outside of this. And then again, I have two other mentors in the ICT world. One guy's name is Joe Miller. If you look him up, I'm sure you could find him. But I mean, man, these people have changed my life, honestly. And, I'm just trying to pass the blessing forward. So then, I can play a small role in helping you guys and anyone else that does come here looking for value. But yeah, go check them out. Between me, ICT, the people that I just mentioned, if you're into crypto and you really want to understand a lot of deep stuff about crypto and the stock market as a general and like in general and financial education, between that list, there's really no one else you need to look at, honestly. There may be some others that you may gravitate to, which is fine, obviously. But if it was my opinion, well, I wouldn't have more than 5 people that you're listening to for any one subject. Preferably one for each subject. Um, but that's just me. I don't like being distracted. I don't like having too many opinions, and I like having opinions that align with one way of doing things, but maybe are different variations of things, like different specialties. And the list I just gave you, the list that you guys have, ICT and um, me, right? If you guys do like the way that I teach and believe in what I do here, and then Coach JV, Tall Guy Typhoon, another one for stocks and like the stock market in general. Maybe you guys will like his style, but his name is the Wall Street Trapper. I mean, he's amazing too. His audience is kind of aimed at people that don't generally get involved in the stock market, right? Um, but he has a place too. He's a very, very, very godly individual. Um, he does have a specific style that not many, well, not that not many people mess with it, but not a lot of uh, people can kind of gravitate to the way that he does things at times, which I don't understand why. But he just has a very particular style that I guess doesn't align with some people. But yeah, they're amazing, honestly. Yeah, every Tuesday, Tony, you talking about Trapping Tuesdays? I literally been following him since he first started doing that, the Trapping Tuesdays. I mean, he has a vast amount of knowledge on Tuesdays. So that's another thing you can do on Tuesdays. He's spectacular, honestly. In my opinion, he's one of the best. That's why I mention him all the time. But yeah, that's a lot of like general financial education, stock, like internal stock understanding and breaking companies down and long-term investing, building a portfolio long-term, and anything that's taught with any of these people. Since we know ICT concepts and they don't use it many times, it just adds to the ability for us to be even more highly effective. And what we do here with trading also can be applied to options. I mean, there's so many directions you could take this, from crypto to options to day trading to swing trading, position trading, any type of trading. you know, because we understand what the market's trying to do technically, and if you could reinforce that with fundamentals, which, most of the fundamentals that we use is from ICT. But there is some other things too that are, pretty helpful reinforcement mechanisms that you'll get from the people that I just pointed your attention to. And Tony, right? He's getting value. I'm sure any of you guys that look up these people that I've mentioned, there's a reason I talk about them. There's a reason that I'm where I'm at, because I've listened to people that are provably effective, from ICT to the others I just mentioned. And that's in the realm of long-term investing and crypto. And they're the only ones I listen to. I could care less whoever is popular right now. I know these people are worth listening to because I've literally listened to them pretty much as long as I've been trading ICT concepts. Because once I got into investing, I was looking for who to listen to. And I vetted people over years. And they've not steered me or anyone else wrong that I've sent to them. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would be dope if I could hop on a call with them, especially since they don't use ICT concepts. I think that'd be a cool collab. Maybe I'll try. My following's not big enough for them to even look at the message, unfortunately. But hey, maybe in the future, right? But yeah, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, you guys. Didn't mention this earlier. If you guys get value, it helps the channel out. And again, if you are going to go to Tradeify, if you support the channel or want to support the channel, and you want to get the discount code, it's WMG at checkout. But again, you don't have to. Maybe you don't like the type of thing, right? Which is understandable. But again, it's just a way that you can help support the channel or show that you support the channel. And you're supporting Tradeify, who I believe in. Until they do something that I don't agree with, or until they do me wrong, which I don't believe they will, especially with what I mentioned to them. They listened to my story. No other firm has ever done that. I've tried to explain it to Top Step. They never listened. They don't want to even give you the time of day. Not that, it's their obligation, but I mean, that tells you about the integrity of the company. They truly do want to serve the trader, and it shows in their rules and their hospitality when it comes to their support. So again, the code is WMG if you want to go get the best discounts with Tradeify. If you want to support the channel, or you could just simply like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the message. Because you're helping me in that instance, help others. And you show me that I should keep doing this, right? Right? Because I really don't have to, but I'm helping you guys, right? It's something that I enjoy. So, do you guys have any questions about anything? We are gonna be done in a little bit. Is there anything you guys want me to look at? We didn't really look at the bonds and yields. I'll keep that for you guys to go look at. Well, maybe we'll look at it for a second. Get a feel for what the bonds are doing. See if they support our thesis. So yeah, we've got that Kraken correlation overall. If this continues to run higher, the bonds, you guys know that the bonds have a heavy impact on what the foreign currencies are going to do, what the indices are going to do, and it has a reverse effect generally with the DXY. This is making sense in terms of the lower dollar, right? Because, I mean, we broke through our bullish invalidation. So it's also not really showing much respect to this monthly bullish order block. So let's actually remove that now. So yeah, let's think about this from a quarterly perspective here, right? If you see the 3-day chart right now, the new quarter, the first quarter, began in December 15th exactly. What do you see? I see accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So I'd be very curious to see if we can get a rebalance, and then possibly a redistribution. So this low to that high should act as a balanced price range. Honestly, this low to that high should be able to act as a balanced price range. So all of this, take it from that low to that high, get the 50%. We should not break through the 50% of that. And we got failure swing down here. So I think it'll be pretty logical to see this get targeted. If we do see that unfold, and we do see that the bonds are going to continue, notice this. You see this candle up here? Down to that. That's a gap. It's a beautiful gap, acting as a magnet. Right? We got this bearish breaker here getting violated. We have this monthly bearish order block now being violated. It's been a minute since we looked at the bonds and yields because they've been a shit show. And we got the fair value gap here. Could see that this fair value gap turned to a bullish fair value gap. Again, we still got a lot of buy side, like I've talked about, for these. They may, given what we see here, they're clearly not done. They basically, if you go to December, accumulation, manipulation, targeting sell side, targeting the low here. It did leave equal lows, which is interesting. They'll come back to get that at some point. But for now, we got breaker here. We got high, low, higher high. It's treated as a breaker. We got relative equal highs up here. Trend line liquidity. We got order blocks being respected. We got accumulation, manipulation, distribution from a 3-month perspective, starting in December, because that's the start of the first quarter for the coming year. So we got accumulation, manipulation, and now we got distribution. Okay, and then it looks like we're targeting these highs up here. So for this, if this continues, it may cause a problem for the indices to go exceedingly bearish, like for long term. It may just turn around at some point. And if it does turn around and we see that the bonds are doing this, we can be really, really sure that the indices are going to keep going higher, right? And if the dollar continues to hold this, say it breaks down below this low, that'll be looked at as a market maker sell model. The indices, the NASDAQ specifically, breaking back above this level right here and then gets above this high. If that happens and we see that the bonds and the yields look like this, again, that's a highly confident, a confidence boosting indication for this to be a market maker buy model. Okay, we got this high to that low, 50%. If we overtake this fair value gap, just overtaking that fair value gap gives us early signs that we may look to target the highs up here, especially if that happens while the bonds are continuing to rally aggressively. Okay, let me see the chat. Oh yeah, they should call it low step. Yeah, yeah, tops. Geez, they're probably not even going to be around in the next year. They may, if they save themselves. But it seems like the owner of Top Step is trying to jump ship with some of the things he said on social media and the behavior, the things that he's doing, like increasing the price 20% and denying hundreds of payouts in the last 2 months. I mean, if you search things up about Top Step on X, I mean, it's been a bloodbath. I mean, it's really bad. And again, we see the writing on the wall. There's no reason to demand that Top Step stays alive. There's other companies, like I said, Tradeify, because of Top Step's decline, what I've seen over the last couple of months and how I've been treated at times by the support, I just made the decision to look elsewhere. I was looking at Apex, but Tradeify is much better. Tradeify and Lucid, I haven't fully tested Lucid yet. They seem like they have a Tradeify vibe. And the same trader who's helped make Tradeify amazing, which is his name's Trader Kane, he's also now working with Lucid as well. He's talking about them as well. And anything that he's talked about when it comes to prop firms, I mean, he's been pretty spot on. He's been pretty spot on, and he doesn't want to do people wrong. He's trying to help the community as well. He's pretty trustworthy in my mind. Speaking of some of my private community students, Harley has entered the chat. Good morning, Harley. It's definitely one of my best students over the years. One of my youngest students. I don't even know. Can I call you a student anymore? I'm not even sure if that even is the right title anymore. He's pretty independent now. But yeah, students becoming a master, right? But yeah, what's up, Harley? Hope you've had a good weekend, bro. Appreciate you hopping on. Always a student of the markets. Yeah, hey, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Always. Always, always, always. And we will never not be a student when it comes to psychological things, because life happens and we got to adapt real time all the time. And being a full-time trader, if you don't have those skills, everybody wants to be profitable, right? But then once they're profitable, they see that, okay, there's a whole nother story that I have to now walk through, a whole nother level of improvement that has to take place. And, it's stressful. It can be stressful if you don't have the right mindset. That's why I talk about mindset so often. Once you're profitable, you need to make sure that you understand taxes. You have to understand that, you're not going to win all the time. You're going to have to weather the storm at times. And your skill sets that you build once you get to that point, the things that you've built prior, it's going to show you whether you did the right stuff or not. And it'll quickly show you that you're either ready or you're not. And maybe you have to kind of wait. That's why I don't tell you guys to rush. Don't just quit your job because you get a couple payouts. Build up 6 months to a year of savings. Keep your job. Look at your job as a tool now instead of like a necessity. It's a tool to help continue to fund your financial wall, so that once you do become profitable, you're not going to be worried like you're working paycheck to paycheck as a trader. That's impossible. It's not good at all. And you're going to hurt yourself health-wise if you do decide to hurry and go too quick, because your life depends on you trading. Once you hit that level and you decide to take that leap, you want to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance, because most people that go full-time aren't full-time a year later because they didn't plan for it. They pass a funded account, get one withdrawal, and then they quit their job with no savings. It's like, what are you doing? like what's like, the risk is ridiculous. At least have 3 to 5 years experience on top of that, and at least 2 of those years, at a minimum 1 of those years, you prove profitability the whole year and you doubled your income at your job, preferably triple. This is how you put yourself in the best possible situation to make full-time trading work, because it doesn't work for most people because they don't think about this stuff. They just wing it because they pass the funded account. What if something happens to you like what happened to me with FTMO? And you didn't save money, right? You spent all the money, right? You have no backup, right? In terms of money, right? If you have a bad week, a bad day, a bad month, a bad quarter, what are you going to do if you don't have this stuff thought of? You're most likely going to have to get another job, and you're going to have to backtrack. And then that stresses even more, because like, damn, I thought I got away from this. It's a battle that we go through, if we don't plan properly. But it's something that you can plan around and make a reality if you do it correctly and have the right mindset, which I hope you guys feel like you're getting that here. Let me see. Slim said, Lucid is great. Okay, nice. So you've been trading with Lucid. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm thinking about going with like 5 accounts with Tradeify, which I have, and then 5 accounts with Lucid, because I think they offer the same similar structure, right? Like you get to do one-time fee, get instant payouts. I don't recommend all of you do that, But if you're profitable, you understand the markets, and you just don't like the challenges, like I hate the challenges because I'm not aggressive, you know. I'll take, my time if I'm looking to pass something. Um, so because I know how to trade, okay, because I've, you know, been pretty consistent over the last, 4.5 years, I don't really think it's necessary to get funded account challenges. If I have access to capital right away, why would I, like, really? I don't have anything to prove to these people. I already know, right? So I don't care if they know. Just give me the capital if you are really going to do that. Um, One thing people don't know, there's hidden negotiations that can happen with these prop firms. They have unspoken negotiations that can take place, like with the risk you have access to, right? Like if you prove, let me see, do you always do? Yeah. Lately, that's pretty much all I've done. I didn't do that with Top Step, obviously, or FTMO. But I'm just at a level where I'm just like, why would I want to spend a month on, unless I want more lenient rules. But like I said, there's unspoken negotiations with these companies. They don't talk about it, and no one really mentions it, because most people are not really as profitable as they claim. So the firm doesn't really look at them. They don't have those conversations with them, but everything's negotiable. Your risk allocation, some stuff's not. Um, it depends on the firm. But most of the rules over time, if you're profitable for like 6 months and you prove it to them and you're not reckless, you're not a risk, and maybe they move you to live funded. Once you get a good relationship with these firms and your dashboard, your data is showing that you are in fact a very responsible professional, they're willing to negotiate, like the consistency rules, how large of a risk you have access to, right? And I mean, even how big your account is, if they really like you, they can give you access to real capital, like real capital, like more than what you can normally just gain, like the max limit. You may get recruited because some of these firms have actual trade desks, like actual portfolios that they can allow you to manage that has millions. Like Jade Cap, he was called up to go work with an actual firm, like a capital management firm, and they gave him I believe $1 million to trade with, and basically said your only rule is to not blow the account. I don't care how much you risk, but don't blow the account. You've proven yourself over the last 14 years. You've proven it publicly. It's verifiable that you're a professional. You don't gamble. You're not a wild person. So yeah, here, take this money and do what you will with it. They have their profit split, whatever that is. He probably can't mention it to the public because probably under an NDA. But these are opportunities that you get in this industry if you do the right things. Not only with the prop firms, but also with, if you're public or you have verifiable results and there's maybe a firm that does offer private trading capital management. I mean, the opportunity is crazy. It's just a testament to what ICT said before. If you learn this skill set but you just don't have money, there's ways to get money, right? If you can prove that you can be profitable, you may have friends or family that's rich, or maybe has some money that if you prove to them that you can do this and their money would be safe, they may be able to give you a chunk of money. Just make an agreement, make it official, get signatures, get lawyers involved, and manage their money. You know what I mean? I do believe to manage funds in certain scenarios, you may have to get the license for it. They do have a license for capital management. So I think on like an official level to work with official firms, you probably got to go through some of those license situations. Again, who's talking about this? Nobody knows about this, right? Because people are not what they claim to be. Most of these people. Think about it. Have you guys ever heard anyone mention any of this, like at all? Has anyone ever even spoke about it? You know, if you guys have, I'd love to be, I'd love to hear about it. But I'm pretty sure at least 90%, 99% of people that I work with, or even just have conversations with, even people that have big followings, they don't even know this, right? And I'm like, why? Right? Like, if you know what you're doing, you're very attractive to money, like people that have money because they want a return. They want passive income. These rich people, these firms and all these people, they want good traders because we are a diamond in the rough. Traders that know what they're doing, we are a needle in a haystack, because again, we're in a zero-sum game. Most people fail. There's no long-term success most of the time. And it's not because trading's hard. It's just because they don't make the changes, Yeah, I'm very aggressive on the challenge. Yeah, that's okay on the challenge, right? It makes sense because we just want to hurry up and get it done. But if you didn't want to have to break your rules, and you have capital to invest, and you're cool with making $200 to $500 and being consistent in that way, you can get more obviously depending on the account size you get for the direct funding. The rules are a little bit more, a little strict, but it's definitely workable. If you're looking for base hits, which I encourage you guys to do, base hits will outpace any person that's trying to take home runs all the time. If you can get consistent base hits and you have velocity like us, we find 2 to 3 trades every single day. Does that mean I take them, all of them? No. If I get one that runs 20 to 30 handles or more, I'm cool. I'm done for the day. If I make $250 to $500 in a day or more, great. I never really care about going over $1,000. If I hit 1,000, cool. I'm probably done for the week, honestly. I'm not too concerned. I just want 4 to 10,000 a month. If I can manage that, I don't even got to hit 10,000. 5 to 6,000 a month is totally fine for my lifestyle that I live. I'm very low key. Some days it's more, some days it's less. Right? Some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less. Some months it's more, some months it's less. But that's just the nature of what it is that we're doing. That's why you, again, got to have a financial wall and be smart with your money. But yeah, Slim, again, it's okay to be aggressive sometimes in the challenges. But again, if you do have the ability to go through direct funding, it's definitely something to look into. I don't want to stay on challenge. Oh, you don't make money. Yeah, that's the key. I don't want to do it. I don't like taking so long. But also I can also be aggressive. Like when I was with FTMO, I was super aggressive because I wanted to hurry up and get it done. And you only had 30 days to pass the challenge or you have to repay, and do it all over again. So I kind of was thrown into that. Then I learned over the years that it's like, okay, well, I'm very calm. I take 1 to 2 trades a day if it's there. I'm okay with not taking a trade. I know exactly what I'm looking for. So I don't want to be breaking my rules. I don't want to have that inconsistency when it comes to my engagements. I have, an account that I go a little bit more hard in. And then I have my personal account, and then I also have Tradeify. But, I want to be able to keep it the same across the board. I don't want to feel like I'm pressured to overdo things and have that inconsistency. So that's why I feel like the direct to funding, although it's a little bit more strict, you have a 20% consistency rule in many cases, because the firm doesn't want you to get in, over leverage, and then be able to withdraw, right? Like they want you to grow it like a professional. They want you to prove that you can do things consistent, and then you can have a pretty reliable income-based trading account. That's what these direct to funded accounts kind of are. They're meant for the trader that's conservative. They're meant for the trader that literally is encapsulated in the things that we do. The way that I teach, the mindset that ICT shares with us. Like it's literally made for us, those rules. And it's pretty amazing. Again, that's why I really, really enjoy it. And I was asking around. I also asked ChatGPT. I'm like, what style of trader are some of these plans kind of aimed at? If you could do an analysis on the rules, which ones are more aggressive, which ones are more kind of like my style. I've explained my style and my perspective, what I aim at and stuff. And it literally said lucid trading, but first it said Tradify. It said they're direct to funding, right? They're instant funding. They said it's literally made for someone that's looking to make it an income, that's not looking to, be a home run trader, who really is consistent, who doesn't over risk, who's not trying to be too aggressive, and who plans to be here long term and scale. Because there's also, again, the negotiations that can take place on the back end with the firm if you prove it, like that you can be consistent in this manner because it's professional. You're not wild with the equity curve going up and down and, doing all this craziness when you are funded. And they like that because the more reckless you are, the more risky your performance looks. And a firm does not want to associate with you on a more professional level if they feel like you're a risk. So that's why you want to be professional when you're doing the funded account trading. When you get the funded account, you want to be professional. Prove to them that you're someone that can be worked with, and then, once you have a decent amount of a track record with that company, multiple payouts, not crazy drawdown. If you've went into drawdown, you've been able to slowly get out of it, proving to them on the back end that you're able to manage risk properly. Once you have these things under your belt, I'm telling you, you can take things to a whole nother level and have access to more capital than you can ever even imagine. It's hard to see forward when we're first starting, but that's what lies ahead potentially for everyone, assuming that you guys become profitable, which unfortunately I can't. Obviously, no one can guarantee that. It's going to be up to you. But yeah, again, there's really nobody that talks about this stuff. Nobody mentions it because they're questionable. See, looking to pass 1 or 2 trades. Yeah, and Tradify I think offers that. I think Lucid does too. I think some of the companies do offer it if you did want to go big and try to pass it pretty quick. But again, if you didn't want to have to do that, because maybe that's outside of your rules and you're not comfortable with it, again, the direct to funding is really nice. They do have like a profit target that you have to meet before you're eligible for a withdrawal. But hey, it comes back to the question: are you really profitable yet? Like, is your skill set where it's at, able to manage, or admittedly be a profitable setup? Right? Is it a profitable system? Are you at that level yet? Like if a profit target is like, oh man, well, it's a profit target. I don't like that. I don't want a profit target, because who knows how long it's going to take. If that's the mindset, think about it. They're red flags. They're red flags, and you may have to just pull back a little bit. Focus on the skill set, because again, once you get the skill set, money comes to you. Because money wants to go where it can be doubled, where it can be increased. And if you're the increase, you can imagine. You can imagine what's possible, not only through outside entities, whether it's family, friends, or some investor, right, that you get in front of somehow. And there's ways to get in contact with firms and investors and whatnot. They're always looking for traders, always, because we're a minority, But even if it's not something like that, you could still go even further with a relationship with the firms. And I mean, it's very interesting. Mind you, they're not going to announce this to the world, right? But it's unspoken things with every firm, pretty much. TopStep does it. I've had conversations with TopStep. There's Tradify, they have it. I know Apex has it too. I don't really know about others. I know that those are the ones that I have. I have friends with all those firms, and I'm obviously with Tradify and was with TopStep. I've talked to them about these types of things, specifically TopStep. I wouldn't do it now with TopStep. I wouldn't even engage on that basis with them because they're probably going under. We'll see, right? Let's give it like 6 months and see where TopStep's at. But yeah, I think it's not going to be It's very volatile. It's not something worth risking when there's other options that are more stable. So yeah. We've talked about a lot today, from technicals to some entity frameworks, what you can look forward to in the future, why it's good to be a professional, right? Why it's important to be a professional. We did mention the bonds and yields, kind of what our perspective is going to be, right? It's going to be very interesting to see how this behaves. We have this high to that low. If this is a failure swing, respecting this bullish order block and the suspension block 50%, and this displaces above this high, I think we're going to have the ability to target this. We'll see what happens though, right? If we take it from this low to that high, we're kind of close to equilibrium and we're range bound. So yeah, we'll see. Let me see. Take profit trade. I've heard a lot about them too. Have the best live program in the industry. Yeah, because I've heard about them a lot. I've never really heard any bad stuff about them. I think Jade Cap trades with them too. Yeah, the best live program. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research and look into them more. I've heard a lot about them. I think Harley, my student Harley, actually talked about them, if I'm not mistaken. Harley, if you're here, let me know if I'm wrong. If he's not here, I'll ask him later. But yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll want to add them to the portfolio eventually. But yeah, so again, with that being said, I don't think I have any further things I want to mention. But I guess I'll ask you guys if you guys have any last minute questions, maybe some last minute perspective. We've talked about a lot of things that are highly, highly helpful. Hopefully you guys understand the process today. Thank you guys for sticking with me, most of you. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what would make it so more students feel that they could stick around longer, because I'm not entertaining. Obviously, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to teach you. So I want to see what can cause the retention to stay, because the longer people stay, the more value they can get. And that's the whole point. This isn't going to be for everybody, obviously, and that's okay. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas in regards to that, I'd be more than happy to listen to some of your guys' opinions. Let me see, Lanto. Yeah, he's amazing, by the way. Very, very young, amazing trader. Made his crazy run for a couple million in November with Take Profit Trader. Wow, interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. That's a beautiful selling point for them. Being able to withdraw that crazy amount. I think that's amazing. I wonder how many accounts you can get with Take Profit Trader. Yeah, I'm gonna look into them. But yeah, so three firms that are great replacements for Top Step or Apex or any other one maybe you've had problems with. Tradeify is my first and foremost one that I truly believe in, because I'm working with them. Of course, you guys got the code if you wanted to support the channel, WMG. Check out, get the best deal. Even when they're not promoting a deal, you'll still have a deal when no one else does, as a result of being part of this community. Then there's Lucid Trading, which I'm looking more into. And then the like Slim just mentioned, Take Profit Trader. So yeah, definitely look into those if you haven't already. I like Tradeify. Any company that has direct to funding, if you're already profitable, or you understand what you're doing and you don't blow accounts, you don't over risk, you don't over trade and over leverage, you're not like a crazy person. Direct to funding is very much reasonable, and you could stack them so you can make the small amount of risk exposure turn into a lot of gain, by being responsible, just adding that multiplier. Okay. Yeah, do it. Look into them. Can have 5 accounts. Okay. 5 accounts. That's dope. Yeah, I'll look into it. I'm thinking maybe I can mix Lucid, Tradeify, and Take Profit Trader, and then just copy trade them on something like Trade Syncer. That's in my opinion, the best copy trading platform. You do have to pay for it, but I mean, it's peace of mind. I still have to look into some of the rules with these firms because sometimes they won't allow you to do the copy trading, especially if they're all Tradeivate accounts. They may not allow it if you have the same email. Some of them are very strict. I know TopStep is very strict in that regard, which is stupid. Like they're trying to make it so you only trade with them. From a business perspective, it makes sense, but I mean they're limiting the ability. So yeah, I'll use a code. I'm looking to get 5 accounts Tradeify now this month. Oh, that'd be awesome, brother. I appreciate you, Slim. I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing that. And I promise you'll have a pretty good experience, if not spectacular. I've had a spectacular experience. Obviously, I can't control what they do, but if they treat everyone the way that they treat me so far, and everything runs the way that it's been running with no problems and very communicative support, trader-friendly rules and all that, beautiful dashboard with their journal and whatnot, I think you'll have a pretty good time. Lucid, Take Profit Trader, I'll look into those. Well, I'll take your advice and tell everyone to take your advice with Lucid because, you're already participating with them. So I'll take your word for it. So the only one that I kind of have to go see now is Take Profit Trader. So I'll look into that as well. Trade Copia is great too. I'll look into that as well. I know Trade Syncer's good. I've used them. Yeah, you can copy with all different firms and how many connections as you want. Not have to pay for extra. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna look into Trade Copia. Trade Copia. Let me write that down real quick. Pull it up. Trade Copia. This one right here. ICT kill zones. Oh yeah, I might make the switch just off the fact that it's an ICT related person looking at it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna book that. I'm gonna bookmark that. So yeah, I'll take a look at it. I already like that. I'm sold. They got an ICT example, right? Yeah, I appreciate the recommendation, Slim. Appreciate you. But yeah, with that being said, you guys, again, thank you for your time. Hopefully you feel it was well spent today. Hopefully every call is feeling that way with you guys. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, obviously let me know. We'll be live again on Tuesday here. I have obviously a live call that I do on Tuesdays. So anyone that's new, I do go live on Sundays and Tuesdays. Weekly prep call on Sundays, one live call on Tuesdays. And then the rest of the time I'm with my private group. And again, that's also available too. If you guys want to check that out, I got a QR code on the screen, or you could just click the link in the bio and you can go check that out. If it's for you, great. If it's not, so be it. It's very intensive. I do expect a lot out of you guys, just as I'm sure you guys expect a lot out of me if you make an investment in someone that's claiming that they want to be a mentor or they have something that's worth value. Expect more from these mentors, so-called mentors. But here you can rest assured that you get more value, hopefully, than you can expect, or than you did expect when you first got started. Hopefully you feel that way with the YouTube content as well. Again, I try to do my best to give you guys applicable things. And from the looks of it, from the results and people's progression, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job here with what we've built. And although it's small, right, the community's small, I think we trade well above our weight, honestly, in terms of actual trading, and then also the value that's provided as well. So yeah, with that being said, thank you again for hanging out with me. Hopefully you got value. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And again, if you do want to go with Tradeify, there's that code WMG. If not, that's okay too. And yeah, with that being said, I will see you beautiful people back here on Tuesday. Tuesday, we have news at 5:30. It is a day after a holiday. So given the fact that it's a holiday, I'll say this before we go, the day before, day of, and day after a holiday is generally classified as low probability, because we got to get out of the holiday volume, right? We got to really get away from that and be cautious, at least if we do trade day before or the day after. We never trade the day of, ever. It's not worth it. Big money is not in the market, so there's not going to be anything consequential that takes place for a holiday, because no one's there, right? The smart money's on vacation. So yeah, and then I think the rest of the week will be pretty dynamic. Okay, we just got to get out of this. But again, we'll be live on Tuesday at 5 a.m. Every time it's 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be live 30 minutes before. Same thing if it's like 6:30, we'll be live at 6. Sometimes I go live earlier, but it's generally a good rule of thumb for anyone that's new. Okay. So yeah, again, if you guys have any questions, I'm always here. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Otherwise, hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you beautiful people back here at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday this coming week for our next live trading call. Okay. So God bless you guys, and you're welcome. Those of you that did say thank you, you guys are welcome, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday.